I am Professor Chris Evans. I am a teacher at Orange Coast College. Go Pirates! And I am thrilled to invite you to the S.T.E.A.M Race to Space Reading Challenge. It, it is a wonderful program, and it offers you the opportunity to read some amazing books about science, math, coding, engineering. And if you do so, you can win some incredible prizes. You can visit the NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory. You can go to the Discovery Cube in Santa Ana. You can have question and answers sessions with astronauts. You can win coding classes just for reading some amazing books. But most importantly, you will learn how important math, science, technology is in all of our lives and how it benefits us. So join this race to space. After today's event, you can visit the website, you can register for this incredible adventure. So let's blast off by talking to some inspiring writers, scientists, and artists. We are welcomed by Gene Yang, Rebecca Siegel, Brandon T. Snider, Jennifer Swanson, Heather Einhorn, and Adam Staffaroni. Will we all fit in the screen? Oh, I was not sure. Some scientists figured this out so we can all be here today at the same time. I was unclear. Thank you for joining us today, everyone.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, we're delighted to be here.
Thrilled. So I first want to talk to you, Gene. So if you don't mind, let's zoom in on Gene there. Perfect. Gene, welcome. So for everyone, thank you. Hello. For everyone who doesn't know, this is Gene Yang. Gene is an incredible writer. His book, American Born Chinese, was the first graphic novel to be nominated for the National Book Award. You might know him from the many comics he has written, Avatar, The Last Airbender, New Superman, which I loved. And he is here to talk about his graphic novel, Secret Coders, today. So please welcome the former Library of Congress's National Ambassador for Young People's Literature, Gene Yang. Gene, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here. I mean, this is about two of my favorite things in the world. It's about technology and it's about books.
When I saw your name on the list, I was so thrilled. So this is an exciting moment for me. So thank you. I want to start actually with this. So before we get to Secret Coders, your newest book that's out, I want to start with your art style. Your art is so iconic. American Born Chinese, again, so celebrated. And this is the S.T.E.A.M Race to Space Challenge. So there's an A in there, the arts. So how did you get your inspiration for how you work as an artist? How did you become an artist?
Well, when I was a kid, my lifelong ambition was to become a Disney animator. You know, those Disney television shows on my television set and the Disney movies at my local theater. That was the very first time I realized that I could tell stories by drawing. I've always loved stories and I've always loved drawing. So early on, I would practice drawing in that Disney animation style. I eventually discovered comic books when I was in the 5th grade and everything changed. After that, I tried out other styles, but I think that Disney influence is still there. Nowadays, I think when you compare my art with the art of some of my graphic novelist friends, I would say that my art is a little more simple. Like a lot of my friends call it lazy because I don't do any cross hatching or anything. But that really does come from, like, that's how animation cells are drawn, right? They don't do a lot of cross hatching or anything like that.
Well, I know you were a lover of comics, and I will say I loved New Superman. You reinvented that character that we all know in such a beautiful way. And you talk about your love of comics. I mean, when you were, a kid growing up, what were your favorite comics? How did comics inspire you to, read other things as well too?
The very first comic book of my collection, the one that I got in 5th grade, was a Superman comic. It was DC Comics Presents number 57, starring Superman and the Atomic Knights. Now, I have to confess, though, even though my very first comic was a DC comic, I was a huge Marvel fan when I was a kid. For whatever reason, I just thought Marvel was cooler than DC. I don't think that anymore because I work for DC now. but I did when I was a kid.
Gene, X-Men 137 broke my heart. I think it's the first time a book ever made me cry. I have to admit.
Yeah.
Everyone listening.
I think like my parents did not think of comic books as literature, right? I was reading all these stories about people in tights, but I very distinctly remember this time when I was in high school. I was reading Dark Knight Returns, which is one of the classic Batman comics. And in my high school English class, my teacher was talking about how Shakespeare would use weather as a storytelling device. And I was seeing the same thing in that Batman comic. Frank Miller was using weather as a storytelling device. And that was one of the first times where there was this link between the stories I was buying at my comic book shop and the stories that I was learning about in my English class. I really think that comics kind of led to me appreciating those English class stories even more.
Gene, I think it's the reason I'm teaching Shakespeare now, I must admit. I don't want to miss out on an opportunity to talk to you about your newest book, Secret Coders. Can you describe the world you created, Secret Coders? Stately Academy, Hopper, robot birds, turtle. It was amazing.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Secret Coders is a joint project. I did it with a good friend of mine named Mike Holmes, who nowadays is probably better known for his current graphic novel series called Wings of Fire. It's like this huge, huge hit. But Mike is one of the greatest artists that I've ever met. I was really lucky to get to work with him. So I did the story and he did the art. And we tell the story, like we try to sell Secret Coders like Harry Potter, in part because we wanted to sell like Harry Potter. But you know how Harry Potter, there's like a group of kids and they find their secret school that teaches magic? In Secret Coders, it's the same thing. A group of kids find a secret school, but instead of teaching magic, they're teaching coding. I was a high school computer science teacher for 17 years. I majored in computer science. I really do love coding. And I've always wanted to do a comic book about coding. I would say the big difference between Secret Coders and Harry Potter is when you read about these kids in Harry Potter learning magic, you can't do the same things, right? You can't perform those same tricks. But with coding, you can. When you read about kids doing coding in Secret Coders, you can actually take the code that they write in the story and type it into your computer and it'll work. That's one of the reasons why I loved coding so much when I was a kid. I really thought of it as magic. Like you type in these words, they're kind of like magic words, and something amazing happens.
I had a question for that. You wrote in your book, computers are magic, and anyone can become a magician, a coder. And I thought that was amazing. So you touched on that. Well, I don't want to give away too much. I want everyone to read your amazing book, but you left us a little bit of a cliffhanger there. What's next for Secret Coders?
Well, Secret Coders is 6 volumes. The first one is blue. I think the next one is pink, and the next one is purple. And as the series goes on, we actually follow this group of kids, Hopper and Annie and Josh, as they grow in power, meaning as they learn how to code better and better. And really, what they're learning to do is code these robots. So they discover all of these different robots with different powers. And it really is like discovering superpowers, right? When you figure out how to code, it's like training yourself on a new superpower. That's how I want kids to feel. And I'm hoping that it'll inspire kids to learn coding in real life.
Well, I'm inspired. I'm going to try to give it my best to learn that. Gene, thank you so very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you so much.
We are next joined by Rebecca Siegel, and she is here to talk about her incredible book, To Fly Among the Stars. So, Rebecca, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I am so jealous. You have a library, a ladder to your library. Yeah. That's exactly what I want in my life.
I like to pretend like I'm Belle and I just whoosh to grab different space books.
That is phenomenal. Well, I will say this. I loved your book, To Fly Among the Stars. It so brilliantly overturned all that I thought I knew of the U.S. space program, Mercury 7, quest to reach outer space. So can you tell us about your book?
Sure. So thank you for saying that. To Fly Among the Stars tells a story of the men and women who underwent astronaut testing back in the 1960s to learn about the human capacity for spaceflight. And what most people don't know is that while there was this group of men who tested and became accepted into NASA's first astronaut group and ultimately became these heroes and superstars, there was also a group of female pilots who underwent a privately funded version of those same astronaut tests and who also really wanted to become some of the nation's first space pilots. And they were denied that right because of sexism and politics and a lot of things. But what is really phenomenal is that they accomplished so much in their quest to accomplish this goal. You know, they weren't they didn't just send in an application and wait. These were women who were flying all kinds of planes, doing all kinds of amazing things while they were trying to also climb on top of a Redstone rocket and blast into outer space.
Your website has some amazing videos that connect us. And one of the interviews of one of the women, it was almost cringeworthy, like the way they were condescending toward her for almost considering what she was doing. So, wow.
So what is interesting is that the way that these women were treated was so culturally acceptable at the time, but watching things today, as you say, it's so cringeworthy. You know, newspaper article after newspaper article discussing someone's, you know, world record flight or incredible aviation accomplishment would be accompanied by a description of their hair, what outfit they had on, their bra size, just things that you're like, what? But that was the world that they were in.
Well, hopefully it will not be the world we're in today. Your book so beautifully documents, you know, the Mercury 13 as they're dubbed. All of their stories are so inspiring. Was there one that really you loved the most?
I have to say that I did not see this coming, but I am able to give a happy ending for one of those stories, which is Wally Funk, who's one of these Mercury women. She was the youngest of the group who underwent astronaut testing and who did great, and who truly devoted her whole life to chase this impossible dream. Just this summer, she flew on a Blue Origin New Shepard flight. She, at the time, was the oldest person ever to go in space. William Shatner just beat her.
90.
But I have to be honest, I didn't think that she was going to get her dream. And it was the most wonderful thing to watch that happen for her.
Yeah. So Rebecca, if we can pool enough money between us, would you go into space? Would you do one of those flights?
No. I think there's a lot of barfing in space, and I don't want to do that.
Okay. I'm with you too. I think I'll stay here. I'll watch other people do it and clap for them. What do you hope readers of your book can learn and apply to their lives today?
I hope that readers see this and realize that this is an untold story, and I hope that they can think about themselves as a potential untold story. You know, this is something that just because everybody doesn't know about these incredible women doesn't mean they weren't doing this incredible, phenomenal thing. And I think if you can think about your own life that way, like, I'm doing this, I'm going to work so hard on this project. I'm going to try so hard to get my pilot's license. I'm going to try so hard to get into this college or whatever it is. You can think about how, you know, you have that heroic quest in your own heart. You know, like, everybody doesn't have to know what you're doing for it to be important and meaningful. And maybe there's some kid who in 2 decades will hear about what you did, and it'll change the course of their life because they will be so inspired by what you managed to accomplish.
Well, I was certainly inspired by your book, and thank you so very, very much.
Thank you.
Guys, go pick it up quickly. It's an amazing read. It really is. Thank you. Our next guest, you might have seen him on television. He has been on High Fidelity, The Deuce, The Conan O'Brien Show. He has written for Cartoon Network favorites like Adventure Time, Marvel, Spider-Man, Star Wars, Star Trek, The Muppets. He is the best-selling author of The Dark Knight Manual and The Avengers Infinity War, The Cosmic Quest. His newest book is called Rube Goldberg and His Amazing Machines. So welcome, Brandon T. Snider.
Hey! It's good to see you, Chris.
I love your background, by the way, too. I only have a little golem back here.
Hey, but that's a clear golem. That's kind of exciting. I was like, is this too distracting? But I decided it wasn't. I have to, you know, it's my menagerie. It's my world.
I love your world. Like I say, my little invisible golem with the ring on back here doesn't quite do justice to what you have.
Yeah, but you know what? I might have to send you one of my new editions, which is this chicken McNugget, vintage.
I absolutely love that. Well, let's start with your book, because Brandon, Rube Goldberg is Amazing Machines. It comes out in less than a month, and yes, I was given an advance copy. I loved it. I laughed so hard. So can you please tell us about the book?
So Rube Goldberg and His Amazing Machines is really, it's the story about, well, first of all, it's the first book in a series. We're starting with 3 books that follow Rube Goldberg. And if you don't know, Rube Goldberg was a famous cartoonist that used to draw these very complicated machines that would perform a very simple task. And so we have reimagined Rube as a neurotic 6th grader who is, it's really, it's about a kid who's learning to get out of his own way. He has this amazing gift, which is to make these machines, but he doesn't really know exactly what to do with it. And he is a worrier. I think that you might have noticed that about him. He's a worrier. He is a stressed kid. And I think ultimately his journey in this book, and the rest of the cast's journey as well, is really about rising to the occasion to meet the moment, not just for himself and his friends, but for also his community, I would say.
Well, you put that very stressed Rube Goldberg into the hotbed that is middle school, quote, the United Nation of hormones, as you describe it. So why did you decide to put him in middle school?
Middle school is this time when things start making more sense in some ways and less sense in others. And it sounds so, I'm like, your body's going through changes, but it is. You're learning to navigate all these things with this weird sort of perspective, because you're growing, you're learning more about the real world. People are treating you different as you grow up. And things, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to see the world in a different way. And I think the challenge is growing from those mistakes and coming out the other end with a new perspective. And I think these kids, and Rube included, are on that path.
Well, Brandon, Rube is not alone in his adventure here. You had some great secondary characters in this book, and I will simply give a few of the names. Boob McNutt, Professor Butts, Pearl, Bertha. These secondary characters are so great. How did you come up with them? How did you decide to draw them this way? I mean, talk to me about some of those.
So not all of the secondary characters, but these were characters from the original Rube Goldberg cartoon strips, comic strips. Boob McNutt was like Rube Goldberg's most famous character that he ever drew. Most people just know him from drawing the machines, but he had all these other characters that he would draw strips. Mike and Ike. Lollapalooza was another one. Those were all began. I mean, I think of Lollapalooza as a music festival, but the Lollapalooza was originally a Rube Goldberg character. So we've sort of centered Rube himself, a version of Rube. This is not the real Rube Goldberg's life exactly. And then put his characters around him. Boob McNutt was one in particular that we were going back and forth about the name, being like, is it weird to name this kid? And I think you said that you read the book.
Yeah.
So you know that we address that very early on. And from what I have heard from people that have read the book, they understand and they think it's been handled very well. Because originally, there was just a question of like, is it too naughty? But then you totally understand. And I hope that once you get past that thing, you really understand who Boob is and the role that he plays. And it all makes a lot of sense.
That was one of my favorite parts of the book. So I wanted you to address that. The other part was, again, Rube Goldberg and his, amazing machines. You had some great machines in there. The fold-up toilet, the Spicer Upper, the Juicy Lucy. What was your favorite invention that you were able to come up with there?
Oh my gosh. So I have to give credit where credit is due. Ed Steckley, who is the artist on the series, the way that we work is I write the machine into the story, which is a challenge in and of itself to make it really organic. But I leave Ed to design the whole thing. I think if I tried to actually design it, it wouldn't be the challenge that we wanted. So, and he's also really, really good at it. I mean, he can draw these machines in a way that I could never even imagine them. So I would say, I want to say the final machine, no spoilers, in the book is one of my favorites, because there's an image in the book towards the end where you see, I can't really talk about it, but I feel like the last one, because one of the things too about the story and the way the machines work is that, the machines are these very complicated, there's lots of drama and mess to get to a very simple task. And that's kind of what you find Rube finds himself in, these very messy situations where it was like, if you just talked to one another, you would have solved this problem the whole time, instead you're stressing about this and going through this. And so the story itself is kind of a little bit of an homage to a Rube Goldberg machine.
Brandon, I was trying to get you to spoil something that hasn't even come out yet, right? It's still to be
November
released.
16th.
I can't. Again, I was only able to see it on a PDF. I can't wait. I will buy it day one when it comes out.
Well,
Day
that
one.
makes me very happy. I'm really glad that you enjoyed it.
I have one more quick question for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why do you think the concept of Rube Goldberg, this type of problem solving, is important for us?
Oh gosh. I mean, the Rube Goldberg machine competition, which is a real thing that is nationally, I think for that specifically, there is a team building, that you've got people working together. But even if you're doing it yourself, it forces you to really think outside the box, because that is the nature of a Rube Goldberg machine. You to do something that is, just a sort of simple machine. It's not a Rube Goldberg machine if you don't really put your mind to it. And I think whether you're doing it on your own or with a group, it forces people to think outside the box in a way that they really have no choice. So it fosters that kind of creative thinking in a good way.
Brandon, thank you so very much. Everyone go out and buy this book. November 16th, you said, right?
Yes, November 16th. You can pre-order it. My website is CooTieKid, COOTIEKID.com. Or if you just Google Rube Goldberg and his amazing machines, you can find it that way as well.
Everyone should do so. Brandon, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Next up, we have award-winning author, middle school science instructor, Jennifer Swanson. Jennifer is the author of Brain Games, Save the Crash Test Dummies, and the book we're going to discuss today, The Secret Science of Sports. So Jennifer, welcome.
Well, thanks for having me, Chris. I'm delighted to be here.
Oh, I'm thrilled to have you. This book, okay, I will never be able to watch sports the same way again. You applied some serious science to what we all turn on the TV every day. So talk to me about that. Where did you get the idea for this book, and what made you apply this type of science to sports?
So many people don't know this about me, but I grew up with three brothers. So I probably played sports from the time I could walk. We played every sports there were. We even made up our own games in the backyard. So I'm a huge sports fan. And I'm also, as you said, I'm a STEAM teacher. So what I love, the concept I love to get across is that science and technology, it's all around you, everywhere, everything you do. So it's, of course, in sports, and sports has one of my most favorite sciences, which is physics. So I get to talk about engineering and physics, but in a way that kids of all ages can relate to, right? Everyone has thrown a ball. Everyone has hit maybe, a bat and hit the ball. Let's talk about the forces behind that. That's what gets me excited. And I think kids love that because you're teaching them something, but in a fun way, right? So they don't really know they're learning.
You have a whole chapter that's physics is your friend, and you
Yes,
go
that's right.
through
See?
that very, very thing. So I'm curious. Tell us how physics can be our friend. What can we do?
Well,
In sports?
physics, it can be your friend or your enemy, right? Because we have gravity, right? So when you throw we have exercises throughout the whole book. So experiments, because that's the other thing with this book. I didn't want it just to be a book that you read, right, and stand still. If you've looked at a lot of my books, they're meant to be taken outside. So this book should go with you to the swimming pool, to the baseball diamonds, to the soccer fields. And physics is your friend, because if you learn more about physics, as in learn the different arcs of throwing the ball, then you'll understand how far your friend has to run before they catch it, right? So you're learning about physics, even though, again, you just think you're playing a game.
You had some amazing concepts. What's your favorite scientific concept? You thought, I'm going to look at this through the lens of sports. What was your favorite scientific concept you got to apply to this?
Oh, wow. So I probably have to say the one part, the section that I love the most is the technology, because it kind of blows my mind. I grew up playing with wooden tennis rackets, right? I mean, it was kind of like hitting something with concrete compared to the stuff these days. Now it's made with carbon fiber, and the balls themselves have, nano fibers, so they bounce higher. I am stunned at the amount of technology that is in every single bit of the sports. So I think that intrigues me, and I think that's exciting to tell kids about.
Well, You also apply math as well too, and this is the part I'm excited for my 16-year-old to pass along. He loves math. He loves sports. So can you tell us about that section of your book, math and sports?
Sure. We wanted my editor and I, we wanted to do that because, as you know, math is not in a lot of books, unfortunately, for kids. And again, it's also fun. Um, and one season, as let's see, in 8th grade or 7th grade, I tried out for the softball team. And I was not that good. So I was the statistician all year. And let me just tell you, you don't appreciate math until you are the statistician. And you have to keep tallies of everything. So I think it's important. And these days, by the way, if you follow sports, almost any person knows statistics going. They're like, oh, well, this person played 13 years ago and this was their stats. So we thought this was a great way to add this to the book so that kids can learn the math and then they can talk with their friends, right?
Well, I have to believe you were an all-star statistician on your middle school team.
I don't know about that, but
And you certainly must be an all-star teacher. I wish you would have been there when I was in middle school science. And I really loved your book. And I want to thank you so very, very much for talking
well,
about it.
thank you for having me. It's been fun.
Oh, thank you. And our final guests are Heather Einhorn and Adam Staffaroni. You might know them from their New York Times recognized podcast, Lethal Lit, a Tig Torres mystery, or Daughters of DC. And they are also the creators of the graphic novel, The Curie Society. So, Heather, Adam, welcome.
Hey, Chris. Thanks for having us.
All in one box now. There's just two boxes that we have left.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Thank you so very much. I really loved your book, and we had a number of graphic novels today. So I'll start with this. In your graphic novel, what exactly is the Curie Society?
Adam, you go. You say what the Curie Society is.
The Curie.
I read it. It was James Bond. No.
Yes, exactly. It says secret society of women scientists that Marie Curie founded back in 1903 with her Nobel Prize winnings and survives to this day in underground chapters at universities all over the world.
Yeah, it's definitely one part James Bond, one part Hidden Figures, I think is the sort of vibe that we're going for on this one.
I love the end where you have the drawing of their secret lair and where everything. I wanted to go there. Like, okay, where do I send off my college application? I'm in. Yes. Will they accept me? I will do my very best. Why did you guys choose Marie Curie? What drew you to her to be the inspiration for this foundation, that an organization that they've got an important mission that they have to accomplish?
Yeah, when we started looking into the history of different female scientists and how they were overlooked through the basically through, I mean, even today, right? We're still not, in the best spot today. But then when we looked at Curie specifically, we felt like her energy and her vibe was like she would totally have started this secret society. She actually went to a secret school. It was called a flying university. So when she was shut out of going to school, she just was like, no, we're gonna do it. I'm gonna make my own thing. So we really thought that she would approve of a secret society for women scientists.
Yeah, and she was a superstar scientist of her day. She was famous. She was in the tabloids all the time, and she hated the publicity. So we thought that made a secret society a perfect fit for her.
And I think everyone was trying to get radium at that time. Like, it was part of normal everyday life. Put it in toothpaste and things. Just crazy.
It became so expensive due to her discovery of it that she needed to count on people to gift it to her in order to have enough to do her experiments.
Wow.
And that's what the sort of, drama of the Curie Society is that this is also a place where young female scientists don't have to worry about finding funding. We sort of have a commentary on that aspect of the scientific process, which we learned from interviewing like 20 female scientists for this graphic novel. It's like, it's a big part of it. It's how you get funding and sort of how that aspect, it is really like the business versus the ethics versus like trying to do good for the world. It's all sort of mixed in together. It's a very interesting and complex topic that we're trying to put into a graphic novel. Yeah.
No, I loved it. And as a parent who currently, my lovely 20-year-old daughter is at a historically all women's college, you need to have those opportunities. And you guys created 3 just incredible characters. They're strong. They're all unique in their own different ways. They all figure out different ways to not only solve their own personal issues and problems that are going on with, this dramatic moment of the change in your life, but also to make the world a better place. Which of these 3 was your sort of favorite character? Did you guys have different favorites? I'm curious.
Oh no! Oh, it depends on the day of the week.
The amazing thing is that they're all amalgams of the different actual women we spoke to, because what we wanted to dispel the myth that a scientist is just this person in a lab coat sitting in some back room that you never see. The women we interviewed all do amazing different things out in the field, go on all sorts of different adventures in their real life as scientists, and we wanted to put part of them as actual people into our characters. So they all have different pieces, but I'm gonna today my favorite's Simone.
Well, then I'm gonna go Taj.
Okay, I'm with you, Heather. I think Taj was my favorite. You guys did something so cool here. I was reading an article recently about the topic you put in your book, and I was so excited when I made it to woolly mammoths. So tell me about that. I just read a National Geographic article about this very thing weeks ago.
Well, the craziest part is, so we always like to think of the Curie Society as being ahead of the game, and so when we wrote this graphic novel, like this was like something that was like, oh man, like, this is like future, we call it near-term sci-fi, near future sci-fi. And now here it is. Like that's the whole point of the Curie Society, is these are the scientific concepts that you see in the book are things that you could actually work on. It's not like, usually we're 9 times out of 10, we're working on things that we just make up from scratch. So this is a little bit of a different thing for us. Working with real science.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were excited to see it real. We saw it too, because we were like, we predicted it. The Society's been working on it the whole time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I love it. So my last question is this. Well, what's next? Because that's not the end of this book. I don't want to give away spoilers, but there will be new adventures for the Curie Society. Can you talk to me about what's upcoming? What can you expect?
Yeah, the amazing thing is that there's the pace of scientific progress is so fast nowadays that there's constantly new things to talk about and new things to kind of dream about that are coming, in the future. So we're going to be doing more volumes of the Curie Society, 2 more volumes, and we're talking to scientists now, because the ones we interviewed for this book, that was already a couple of years ago. We did all that interviews, and so much new stuff already exists to talk about. So we're going to be including the most, cutting edge, most breakthrough technologies, and talking about the most exciting scientific concepts every time we do a new volume of this.
Yeah, there's a big cliffhanger at the end of volume 1. So we'll pick up right where we left off. Spy adventures and science and coolness and ethical debates. It's all in there.
Heather, I'm not a patient person. I want to know. Thank you so very much, guys. Let's welcome everyone back. Guys, I wish we could stay here the rest of the day. I would love to chat with each and every one of you more and more and more about your books. Can you just talk to our audience today, middle schoolers, about why for you reading matters, why it changed your life, how science, math, technology, just one last sort of send-off for all of our viewers. Brandon, you start.
Well, reading opens up your whole world. You learn about perspectives that you had no idea about. It's not just about, when I was little, I didn't read as much as I should have. And that's sort of my shame as an adult, where people are like, oh yeah, I loved comic books as a kid because there was a visual element. But like when I got older, when I was in high school and college, like you read books and you start to understand the world in a new way, and you get to see new perspectives that you have never considered before, and you start to understand that you're not alone in the world, which I think is a huge thing, and that's what it's about.
Rebecca, why'd you become a reader?
For me, I am always keeping the stories that I'm reading in my head, so I'm never bored because I'm always replaying the scene from books. So if I'm in a really long Starbucks line, it's not a big deal because I'm just recycling the scene I read that the night before that I loved. Like I might not answer when they say like, Rebecca, your coffee, because I'm like in Jurassic Park, but it's amazing because I get to live in this La La Land world all the time.
Jennifer, when you're not doing stats, what do you? How did you become a reader?
I love reading. Reading is amazing. It takes me on an adventure. So even though I'm, a scientist and I'm into science, I love mysteries, which kind of go hand in hand, right? So I used to solve mysteries. So I hope kids find that adventure in the next book that they pick up.
Heather, Adam, you're back. Why'd you become readers?
Well, first of all, I want to say, reading can be anything, any form. Read whatever you have fun reading. I use newspaper comic strips. They're only 4 panels. There's not that many words in them, but I read them every day when I was a kid, and that's what I'm excited about reading. So everyone out there, read what you think is fun to read.
I love the idea of introducing because we have this amazing imagination, but we know that not everybody out there has that imagination. So for me, it's always like taking a peek into other people's brains and just seeing like the crazy worlds and fun things that they come up with and how that inspires me, because I know that other people and that sort of shared experience, that you're having with other people are reading it too. So I think that's what gets me. It's just like the sort of it's an individual, but also a shared experience that I think is super fun.
Gene, I'll close with you. You get to inspire all of us with your story of reading.
Well, I have to say that when I was really little, like in early elementary school, I did not like reading. The teacher divided us into 2 groups, and one was the fast group, one was the slow group. She didn't say that, right? I think they were named after colors, but everybody knew, and I was in the slow group. But as I got older, I realized speed actually doesn't matter. What matters is that you love the story, right? So that's my advice to kids. Don't worry about how fast or slow you read. Worry about finding a story that you really love. And what everybody else said is right. Books give us a way of like seeing into somebody else's life. And human beings are fascinating. Books are a great way of seeing how human beings live.
Wow. I want to thank all of you for joining us today. This was so wonderful. Thank you so very, very much.
Thank you, Chris.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you. Thank you. That concludes our session, and I hope you have had as much fun as I did listening to these amazing writers. Make sure you sign up for the S.T.E.A.M Race to Space Reading Challenge today. Visit the website. Here, the authors read sections of their own books as well, too. And so view the website and start your adventure today. Thank you.